Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of From the District with State Senator Suzanne Weber. We are now in the 13th week of the legislative session. Senator, how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. This is an exciting time. We're halfway through. We've done a lot, but we have all of the bills yet to come over from the House. And
Hmm.
so we're going to be, going in depth and doing the same thing we did with the bills from the Senate, only in the House, in the committees.
Right. It's
And
been kind of quiet. It's been kind of quiet in terms of committee work because
yeah,
you've been on the floor most of the time because most of the bills have made their way out of committee from the Senate. And so you don't really have that much to do.
right. And we've been on the floor until 9 o'clock 2 nights this week. And we're going to start out on Monday the same way. We're going to be on the floor from, I think, 10 to 12:30, and then again from 5 to 9.
Right.
So
Now,
we'll,
last week you were starting at 9 and you ended at 9. And I think
yes,
you took a break for lunch and a break for dinner, but um I mean at least this Monday you are actually going back to having a few committee meetings with some public hearings, not like the craziness that you had the last couple of weeks, but um at least you'll be having a little break in the day instead of just 12 straight hours on the floor.
right, because we also have our meetings that we have with our lobbyists and our constituents that come through. And it seems that every day is dedicated to a certain group of people. Like, last week we had the Republican women in one day,
Mhm.
um, and the other day we had University of Oregon, and we had the duck puddles, the duck on the floor.
Yes, I saw it with Senator Hansel that somebody stole puddles. Or,
Well, he went into the closet. Can you imagine that? But he finally came out of the closet.
okay, moving on.
It was, you got to have a little fun.
Oh, you do,
And
you
some
do.
of these moments just, bring out some of those um, funny things. And, because these people are very punny.
Yes, I have noticed that the Senate, when left to its own devices, with limited serious things on the agenda, uh, really get into puns. President Wagner being a true master of the dad joke.
Yes, he is.
Great respect for that. Being a lover of the dad joke myself, agree with him on next to nothing, but will say game recognizes game when it comes to dad jokes.
Yes.
So lots of stuff going on, but we're looking like now that the House is starting to pass bills over to the Senate, that you guys are kind of moving more into more uh, a normal situation for the next couple of months, trying to, or the next month really, because you'll need to go through the same process as you said. Take the House
Yes.
bills, they'll be assigned to a committee. Committee will have public hearings and have work sessions and vote, and send the House bills onto the floor. But you guys still have a substantial number of Senate bills that you
Yes,
have.
we do.
And I don't think I don't think it is any secret. The Oregonian has written about it. A number of others have written about it. That the minority is very much slow walking this session. Do you want to talk about that and how it's been going and what you've been doing and why?
Well, one of the things that we have been doing on a regular basis, of course, is reading bills, which is really interesting because unfortunately they listening to bills is not something you can really do because the speed ramped up so far that you can't really understand all that much of what is being said. Um, but we have also we have, as a group of Republicans, We also have brought forward a lot of bills, and many of those bills have not had a chance to be heard in committee. The, the committee chairs have chosen not to hear them. And let me tell you, we know we've got some really good stuff out there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. So we do have an opportunity to have something called a bill pull. And a bill, we can stand up and we can, even if a bill has not gone through a committee and not passed out of a committee, not had a hearing, we can ask that that bill be moved to the floor. So it gets a vote. And then we have a lot of debate on the bill. And we have a lot of people contribute to a lot of positive, the positive aspects and the outcomes of the bill. And then ultimately, we vote on it. And we have not had one bill pull been successful at this point in time. But at least we're bringing these bills to the forefront so
Right.
that they're being heard.
Right.
And
So
and then we also have an opportunity to say why we voted for it. And so then there is debate on why we voted for things and rationalization for why we voted, why that bill would make things so much better. And all of that takes time. And so it makes things move a little slower, but it at least gives us an opportunity to be heard.
right. So a few things there. You said a lot of you mentioned a lot of things. The first thing you mentioned was the idea of having the bills read. And some people, I know when you were in the House, then Speaker Kotek got pretty cranky about you demanding that.
Yes.
And I think part of the reason was because she just had an absolutely god-awful personal relationship with the minority leader at the time, who she ran against, the governor.
Yes.
There were interpersonal dynamics there, but it is actually in the Constitution.
Yes, it is.
I believe it's in the
They are.
Constitution. It's not in the
Yeah,
Constitution.
but
It's at least in the rules.
it's in the rule.
That
And I have been to the Capitol when human beings were reading those,
yes, Lacey,
not the computer.
God bless her. She could speed read too. It's something crazy. But it has been for years and years and years, time immemorial, because people wanted to get in and out of that place, that everybody would just vote to suspend the rules and allow for the bills to be read only by the title. And the title of a bill is usually 1, 2, maybe 3 sentences long.
Yes.
And then they would get to debate. But unless there is an agreement to suspend the rules, they have to read the bill all the way through. And then, since it takes 2/3 majority to suspend the rules, the majority party needs at least some of the minority party to do that. And so that's one way of slow walking bills. You mentioned a vote, bill pulls. Usually the bills, as you said, have to go through the normal process of through the committee, having a public hearing, having a vote, coming to the floor. But the whole body, if they wanted to, if a majority of the body wanted to withdraw the bill from committee, even without a vote, they could do that. Now,
Yes, they could.
But now I remember Senator Johnson, your predecessor, often would, even if she agreed with the bills, she would say, look, on those procedural things, you vote with the team. So she was a Democrat. One would say she probably wasn't the most Democrat-y Democrat in the world. But she still voted with the team. And so that's not uncommon. Even when she supported the bill, she wouldn't vote for the bill, Paul, because she didn't. She knew that you work in a partisan world, and that if you don't play by those rules, at least on the little things, it can get pretty darn miserable for you to actually get stuff done for your constituents. And people don't like that. that just because you have a letter after name that you vote one way. On those procedural stuff, you know, you got to play the game sometimes in order to get what you
Yeah,
wanted.
we do.
But so all of these things that you are slowing down the session on purpose. You are trying
Yes.
to, you are actively trying to make so fewer bills are being passed. Why?
Right. Well, because there are some really terrible bills that are coming up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really, really terrible. And we need to be able to slow things down. Sometimes there needs to be some amendments to some of these really terrible bills, and you know we can hope for that. Some of it is possibly somebody seeing some common sense in some of these things and not moving them forward. But
Well,
I don't know.
probably more than anything, it's the fact that you guys have to be out of there by a date certain, by
Right.
the date of the end of June. And the longer that you spent and forcing reading the bills, doing bill pulls, giving courtesies, giving remonstrances, giving vote explanation speeches, every single one of those things take time. And the more time that you spend doing stuff like that, the less time there is for really, really crappy bills that are going to be very detrimental to your constituents to come out and actually pass. Ultimately, that's what this is about.
That's what this is about.
Right. And it's unfortunate. I mean, we've heard a few of them. We talked about the rent control bill that's coming up that even make it even harder on people who want to rent their homes. People probably saw the video if they were on Facebook on the House bill that would loosen abortion restrictions, such as they are in Oregon, to the point that there was a hearing and somebody asked, "Hey, could a 10-year-old go off and get an abortion without telling her parents?" And
there was a legal decision that they could, according to that bill.
They said, yeah, you could. And one of the Democrats actually audibly gasped. Like,
yes.
Yeah, this is what you're pushing. This is why we're trying to slow walk things, because some of the stuff you're pushing is quite honestly god awful. And it isn't just Republicans either. We do have some independents in the Senate, Senator Boquist. So it is a bipartisan desire to shut things down so that unfortunately, the most progressive of the Democrats, unfortunately, are running the agenda, and their agenda just tends to not fit very well with a lot of your constituents.
Well, you're right, and some of this, okay, there is one bill that would make it so that school board members wouldn't have to fill out the form that we do for ethics every April 15th.
Right.
And there was a bill so that the school boards wouldn't have to do that. Well, the bill at one point in time, somebody said was on the president's desk and ready to be moved forward. Now nobody seems to know for sure where that is. But in the meantime, because of that, we've had 8+ whole school boards resign in Eastern Oregon.
Right.
What are we doing? What are we doing? Why can't we take care of some of these things that need to be taken care of? I mean, one of the members of the school board is a priest, and priests get honorarium, and you have to report all the honorarium you get. Okay, so every time you do a wedding or a funeral or something special for a family and someone gives you some money, you have to declare that.
Right.
Not related to the position of being a school board member necessarily.
And that's, I think, one of the frustrations. And I think it's one of the frustrations of what you get when you introduce 4,500 bills. You get some bills that aren't really thought out. Or if they are thought out, they have some nefarious points to them that people are trying to sneak under the radar. I think that's what we get in this, this abortion bill. It's just, but it also means some good bills are going to have to die.
Yes, they are.
Which is unfortunate. There's a lot of good bills that you have been sponsoring. We're going to talk about a couple here in a little bit that have actually gotten through through the Senate. But there's a lot of bills that you have passed that you have introduced that are good bills that, quite honestly, are very bipartisan. You have bipartisan sponsors on almost all of your major bills. But they're probably going to die because so many of these other bills that you're working on you're trying to stop are so bad that you'd rather kill your own bills along with these other ones
Right.
instead of letting these others take effect. So,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate.
Absolutely.
One of the questions we've gotten from a couple of people, it's a little less now than it used to be, but it is still happening, is why don't you walk? Why don't you leave the state and deny a quorum? And
Well, that is a big discussion. However, 113 passed. The people voted it in.
right.
And amazingly enough, even though it seemed like a really simple concept, going forward, it still has a lot of legal ramifications, and all of that hasn't been completely sorted out yet.
Right.
So, just like the gun bill and the 110. Look at how many years it's taken, and 110 is still not figured out completely. The unintended consequences of a lot of the initiatives that are brought forward to the voter of Oregon just are not well thought out as far as the unintended consequences that can result.
So measure 113 that you mentioned. This is something that the people voted for. Again, I think one of those things that there was a whole bunch of public employee union money behind, and they got to run the narrative. And unfortunately, there wasn't really any organized opposition.
No.
This makes it so that if a member of the legislature has more than 10 unexcused absences, they cannot stand for re-election.
You can't be reelected. Yeah, you can't be reelected.
So everybody who says that people should walk, well, that's great until we come into the next election and all of the incumbents that were there for you to get your bill to stop can't run again.
They're gone.
And
Right.
and some of these swing districts are being held by some of these members that, honestly, when those members go away, the Democrats have a good chance of getting a hold of those seats. So there's a really good chance that if some of these members were all to go away, you'd lose even more ground.
Right.
So
we worry so much about the fact now that so many people are leaving Oregon, not moving here.
Right.
This is an unintended consequences of the laws that are being passed right now.
Right.
The initiatives.
Right.
And, they're worrying more and more about being able to spend more money freely. And yes, services for people are very important. But if you don't have the people to pay the taxes, even if you are number one in the tax structure in the United States, as far as, what you collect from people, income tax, I think I said that rather poorly. They're not going to come here. They're looking at the bottom line too. And then what's going to support all of these programs that you're lobbying for?
I had another buddy who works in the lobby, and he said, look, Oregon just needs more rich people. And everybody can go hate rich people all you want, but they're the ones who fork out a lot of the tax bill. So, and I'm by rich people, I'm not talking about people who make $100,000 a year, because in Oregon, $100,000 a year does not make you rich. It makes you square middle class. And so we're talking, $500 to $1 million or higher a year in terms of wealth. But so folks who want the senators or whoever to walk know that that's a proposition that would essentially empty the entire chamber of of members and make it so that there is a decent chance of the Democrats getting a hold of a majority or a super majority again, and making it so that they don't that walking wouldn't even be an issue. They could control 2/3 and you'd be just done. So think of all the unintended consequences. Just as the senator said, there are unintended consequences of what you're asking for, and I don't think you'd like them. I really don't think you would. So right now, we are watching the House and Senate Republicans slow walk the session.
Yes.
It's you're probably going to see more of it. Project Molasses
it's going to
on slowly. So
yeah. And we're going to probably be spending more time on the floor, which is not bad, to be able to work some of these issues out.
Right.
And
we have a history. Not too long ago, there have been deals made where you've made it so that some of these more controversial things have died. So, and in turn, you said, okay, we will start waiving reading of bills if you'll kill these other things.
Yes, remember in the House last time, they gave us $2 million apiece and $4 million per district to be able to spend, and a lot of that went back to the fact that we stopped reading bills so that they could get to the bills.
Well, that was part of it. The other part of it, I think the bigger part of it, was two things. One, it's important to remember they didn't give you $2 million. They didn't. They allowed you to essentially act as an appropriator for $2 million for particular projects in your district, and you specifically earmarked them for infrastructure projects. So we had some folks, unfortunately, with that were on your side of the aisle who. Of your constituents who vastly either misunderstood or just wanted to misunderstand what that was. That nobody gave you $2 million. No. It was $2 million to be used in your district for projects within the rules of appropriations.
Thank you, Adam, for getting me out of that.
Sometimes we get into this parlance just talking to you and I.
Yes.
We talk about it like, well, they gave us $2 million. Well,
they didn't give us.
No, they didn't give us $2 million. I know what you meant, but people who may not
thank you.
Work in the Capitol and deal with this every day, and I think you ended up using it for water projects, as I recall. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure it was water projects within the district. But one of the other things that was promised to you is that you would have Republicans would have an equal number of votes on the
redistricting. Yes.
Yeah, and unfortunately, then
that didn't work out so for us.
No.
Change the rules in the middle of the game.
Yeah, you guys got shafted pretty hard on that one.
Yes.
And honestly, it made it so a lot of us, even on the staff side, we didn't trust anything that came out of the speaker's office ever again. I mean, we kind of were iffy about it to begin with, but we didn't trust anything. Not a word that came out of her or her staff had any sort of believability in it at all. And I to this day, it's still really hard to trust what she says. That's, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So, in exchange for those two things, you guys waived the ability to read bills. And so, but there were, in the past, I think even before you were there were agreements here to cut here to say, well, we're not going to bring this bill up as long as you guys allow us to move forward. And so who knows? You're not in leadership. Those conversations could be happening and you just don't know it yet. But who knows? But right now we're trying to have this thing slow rolled as much as we can to minimize the damage that might be inflicted on us.
But two victories in all
Ah,
of that.
yes.
Two
So
victories.
two of your bills, Senate Bill 406 and Senate Bill 409. Those are two of your big bills. Those have passed the Senate. Let's start with 406, which was a housing bill, housing being a really important
Yes.
one. Do you want to talk about what that bill
Well,
does?
it inserts Tillamook County into a bill that had been passed in 217 or 219.
2019.
Okay. A lot of the bills that they come forward with have population limits. And it was a really good bill to start with, but it had these population limits of, municipalities of 10,000 people. Well, guess what? We don't have any municipalities with 10,000 people in Tillamook County.
Right.
So what we did was we took that really good bill and we added Tillamook County as a pilot project to enhance our ability to get more housing.
Right. And it's really interesting.
And
Not only did it insert talking about cities, because this whole thing was about cities of 10,000 or more
10,000.
would need to allow in single family dwelling additions of duplexes, and in higher population areas, fourplexes, triplexes and fourplexes, so that in some of these cities that didn't have had land, but it was all on single family housing, so you couldn't put a duplex.
Right.
And there were cities who would slow walk it and say, oh, we don't want to do this, oh, but what about this, what about this. The bill said, look, you're going to do this. You need to be able to allow, you have land, you need to allow duplexes, fourplexes, the like. But it was just for cities. So this two things. Not only did it insert all of the cities in Tillamook County into this, but it inserted the counties, unincorporated counties.
Exactly. So if you're
that was
in
new.
Nassau or Pacific City, you also can qualify in this area.
Nescoin, Neoconi,
Yeah.
Pacific City. There are no unincorporated cities south of Tillamook. So you got Beaver, you've got
yes, I read the whole list.
Yeah, Beaver, you got Cloverdale, but it's actually got to be on a sewer system. If you
Yes.
It doesn't apply to like rural residential. If you're on a septic system, you're not going to be able to put a fourplex on your land. But it is going to make it so that it's not going to require you to. No requirement to knock down the house that you have and put up a duplex. But if you want to, and that's a really great opportunity, I think, for some folks who might have a more dilapidated house and they want to knock it down and put up a duplex and be able to make more money as a rental and at the same time raising housing stock.
Right. Or house their family. That's another thing.
Yeah. Or house their family on one side and rent it or the other side out so that it pays for itself. So it makes it so that one family can stop renting and another family that needs to rent can. So it was a really good bill.
It's a really good bill.
Right. And so it has passed the Senate. It is on its way to the House. And I think it has been referred to the Speaker's desk for committee referral. So we'll see how that goes. But hopefully that's going to happen. The other one was Senate Bill 409.
Yes. And 409 is a really simple bill. What it does is it requires school districts to put a link on their website that takes them to the Department of Education so that they can find out what is the recommended curriculum or what is the curriculum for your school district. And that's the minimum that they have to do. There are several school districts within the state of Oregon who post their whole curriculum on their website because parents are wanting to know. In a lot of states, what they do is they put the curriculum for the school districts in a binder and parents can go and sit in the library and look at it. this would make it so that parents, no matter what their work schedule is, their home schedule is, they can go online and they can see what their children are learning or not learning, that relate to, what the curriculum should be in their school. And amazingly enough, it's such a simple task to be able to do that and to be able to provide that for parents. But I think we had 4 or 5 meetings with the OEA and the School Board Association, because we initially wanted it to say more about what should be provided on the school district's website about their curriculum. But because of small school districts who don't have full-time curriculum directors, it was just, we bargained, but we made sure that we did have the ability for parents to go on a school district's website and find out what their curriculum was.
Right.
And like I said, the school district can add more.
Right.
And
It was
many
really,
of them-
I thought this was a real good example of actual Oregon way style getting things done legislatively. No side got exactly what they wanted, but at the end of the day, there was something there that was better than what was before.
Yes.
Right. And so many times, unfortunately, in Oregon politics, maybe I'm just so jaded that I don't even know anymore. That the majority just runs over the minority, says, "You want this? Oh, well, too bad. Stick in your ear." And that's just the way it's been. All we can do is slow walk bad stuff, because we can't get any good stuff in, right? And so one of the big things I think we've seen around the country is parents do want to know what's being taught in schools, right?
Yes, they do.
And so
Yes, because we've had some glaring examples of things that are maybe not appropriate to be brought into the classroom that parents had no idea was happening.
Right. So then we can say, so you certainly wanted more there. I think it's safe to say the OEA wanted nothing. And God bless Senator Dembro, the chair of the department, or the chair of the Senate Education Committee. He could have said, "We're not doing this. We're not talking about this."
Right.
It's
But
just
he didn't.
right wing crazy stuff. But he didn't. He brought it up, and everybody came to the table. And OEA wanted nothing. You wanted a lot more. We all got together and said, "Okay, at the end of the day, we're going to get this." And it was something, and it's better than it was there, because what we had there was nothing, unless a school district upon themselves to do it.
Right. And we figured it as a victory because, it can always be enhanced in the future.
Right.
But at least it's there now. And, we tried in the House to get that done the last time too, and we're very unsuccessful.
Right.
So
I think, and I think we owe this to the relationship that you have with Senator Dembro. Watching you, I have been impressed that the Senator Dembro seems to really respect you, and you seem to respect him, and he actually asks your opinion on legislation, and he may not always take it. He asks your opinion about what bills to take on.
Opinion.
But he actually asks, and he seems to actually consider it. I think in the House you had a chair that didn't do that. Unfortunately, it was just she set the agenda, and quite honestly, we got into some pretty big fights. Because of that. But because of, I think, the relationship, the good relationship you have with him, and certainly you agree with him on very little of the controversial stuff. But at the end of the day, if you want to get anything done, you're going to have to work with him. And so I think that's what we owe this to, that we have this victory to building those relationships, that you have those relationships with somebody that maybe you don't agree with a whole lot, but at least you respect each other. So, and that's what it really should be, I think. So you got it done. That's 409.
We got it done.
There'll be there'll be more to do with that, and that certainly a lot of the work there was also Senator Thatcher. This is a big bill that she's been
Yes.
working on for a while in the Senate as well, while you were still in the House. So I was glad that she was, I think, one of the initial bringers of that bill. You hopped on as a chief co-sponsor, and you guys got it done in the Senate. Now it's up to the House to get it done, and certainly hope that they do that as well. So, but that's what we have. So this next week, you have more. Oh, no, you're right. Last week you guys had the start of some big stuff in terms of money. Let's
Right.
hear.
It was, it's called the Ways and Means Roadshow. And senators and representatives that are involved in Ways and Means activities, like I'm on Ways and Means Education, we go and listen to the people with what they think we should be funding. A lot of, let's see, there are 4 locations that are going to be traveled to. We've already had the Portland road show, and we've had the one in Newport, and I was there for that one. And they will go to Roseburg and to Ontario. And it is a public hearing for people to be able to come. They will set aside 2 hours to listen to what people think is important and what they want us to support monetarily. 2 minutes apiece. We listened to 84 people on Friday night in 2 hours, and we extended it another 15 minutes. It's very interesting that people's spending is very well aligned with a lot of what we are seeing in the governor's budget and in the budget for higher education. For education, they want to make sure that education is fully funded. There are a lot of other issues, that they want to make sure are funded. Doctors, being able to have more access to medical treatment. The Girl Scouts were there. Food for All was there. Like I said, there were 84. I wrote them all down because I wanted to put together a little graph on what was related to food and clothing and shelter and other issues, especially concerning education. So anyway, Roseburg in Ontario next. And
Right.
I think it is something that the legislature should do more often, to be in touch with people.
Right.
I do.
Go ahead.
No, it's your turn.
Oh, I was just going to say, it is unfortunate that none of these meetings were in the North Coast. I know we were a little cranky about that. Fortunately, those folks were able, who were in the kind of the St. Helens part of your district, could go to the Portland meeting, but those of us
I had 2 that came to the Newport meeting too,
good.
from the North Coast.
Good.
And
Well,
I
if
was
anybody,
really glad to see them there.
good.
Because what we did was we encouraged every one of the people in our district who has a request for capital construction or lottery funds or anything like that, to make sure that they got to one of these, to be able to get their request on the record and make it so that people saw you and what you wanted and what was necessary. A lot of interest in marine reserves.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if we do have anybody who is listening who is going to be in the Roseburg or in the Ontario area on Friday the 21st from 5 to 7 at Umpqua Community College in Roseburg, there will be one of those. And then Friday the 28th from 5 to 7 in Ontario. Note that Ontario is actually on Mountain Time. You can go ahead and go to those as well. I know that's way out of the way. But
if you're happen to be passing through, stop in and say hello.
You do. I will say I'm just kind of glancing at the I'm actually just kind of glancing on the Ways and Means site right now, and I believe that you can actually still submit testimony.
Yes, you can.
Online. So even though you can't be there, if you do want to submit testimony, you can go to olus.oregonlegislature.gov, and then you just click committees. Then you click on, there's a drop down menu for joint committees. So go to joint, then go to Ways and Means. Don't worry about the subcommittees, just go to Ways and Means, and then click the meeting for 421. Then click SB 5506, which is the budget bill that they're talking about. And you can click submit testimony, and you can just go ahead and send your testimony in that way.
And a lot of people were going to submit testimony in addition to their verbal testimony too. And just know that all of those are read. People pay attention to them.
They are. Quite honestly, for my money, and every senator is different, right? I mean, there's some senators who they don't take the testimony in by reading it as well as they do from hearing it. There are other testimonies who kind of zone out when they're hearing it, but when they're reading it, it means a lot. Quite frankly, if you can do both, I think it's the way to do it. But certainly, at least if you are submitting it, it's being read. It is being read. So I think that is a reasonable thing to do. So that is what's going on in the spending of your money. Is and that's just something we haven't really done too much of. I can't remember if we did it the last budget session because of COVID. I think they did. I think they did do it last time, but it was
last time it was all virtual.
Was it?
Yes.
I thought they had done it in person, but I could be wrong. But I'm glad they're at least getting out, even though they didn't make it to anywhere in Senate District 16. But hopefully that will change next time. So
yeah, we'll keep working on it.
Yeah, we'll make a push. Now you are on Ways and Means, at least in a subcommittee, so you can crank up the pressure. Senator, anything else before we? I had a happy Easter. Hope you had a happy Easter.
Oh yes, I had a great time. I got to spend it with 5 college students and my daughter, and it was a good time. It was a good time to have kids around. Yeah,
and we didn't do one of these because we were with our families. Because we did do these on Sunday. We were with our families enjoying the holiday. I had my father-in-law was in town. I had some friends over, and it was just a good time had by all. So, and it was a nice break. Boy, I tell you, I needed a break. I don't know about you.
Yes.
Can imagine.
Sometimes I just need to go and sleep. You know, a nap is really a blessing sometimes.
It is. You know, when you're on the floor for 12 straight hours, I imagine it would be. Your office is big enough now that you can actually put a couch in it. But
I do have a couch in there.
The house was so small that, you know, you had a little two-seater and it wasn't much fun.
You know what is nice, though, too, is President Wagner. You know, I was on the floor with my Tillamook blanket because there's no heat down there, especially it's really cold, especially at the beginning of the week. And he went out last weekend and bought us all blankies.
Oh, well, that was sweet of him. Were they all Tillamook blankets?
No.
Oh.
Yeah, it was disappointing. But anyway, at least we have a blanket now that we can keep there and stay warm.
Yes. Well, that is a good reminder to any folks who are going to Salem. The Capitol is under construction. It is an old building that needs a lot of retrofits. It has a lot of different maintenance. And God bless them. God bless Peter Courtney, former state senator, former Senate president for many years. He was instrumental in getting that work started going, getting the Capitol actually up to date. Look, nobody likes to spend money on public buildings, but if you're going to have a public building, you need to maintain the darn thing. And that had not been happening in the Capitol.
And we had a recess on Thursday where the CAMS people, the construction people, took us through so we could have see what's going on behind the scenes, and if there's a fire drill or a fire emergency, how we would get out of the building in a lot of different places.
Right.
And so we did get to do that also.
Yeah. So it's just a warning to folks that when you go, you're going to hear jackhammers. There's going to be times where there's going to be no heat as we get into June, May and June, when it gets hot. There's going to be days that there's no air conditioning.
Oh, no air conditioning.
It's bloody unpleasant, to be perfectly honest. So you do now have the opportunity to testify virtually. You might want to take advantage of that. So
yes. Plus, there also is a limit on how many people are allowed into the hallway in front of the hearing rooms.
Right.
And that has been shut off at times too.
Yes, the lobbyists
number of people
stopped working. A lot of the lobbyists have just stopped working from the Capitol, and except for when they absolutely have to, and they're just working from their offices or from home.
Or you could find them on some other floor, tucked in a corner somewhere.
Yeah, that does happen. That does happen. You trip over a lobbyist. Don't kick him too hard.
No.
All right, Senator. Anything else you want to talk about today?
No, I just want you to make sure you have a good week, and I want to make sure that I thank my staff again, because I have a wonderful staff. And
well, Katie's on vacation, so everybody knows Katie is the Wonder Woman who actually runs the office. She is going to be out for the week. I think a friend is getting married, so please be patient with everybody, because Katie is Wonder Woman.
Right. And depending upon the schedule, if you have an appointment with me, Tony may be calling you to reschedule.
Right. Good thing to remind as we're actually wrapping this up, because of floor schedules. We actually got somebody cranky about this. When the senator is on the floor, she's on the floor. She might be able to sneak up while the bills are being read and say, and we have a meeting, but there's no guarantee of that. So we had somebody get cranky because, well, who does she work for? Who does she really work for? Well, she's working for you by trying to vote for or against these bills by being on the floor. So that can only happen at that specific time. We can do your meeting a few minutes later or another day. Yeah. So please know that. Please be flexible, and we've said this a bunch of times at the beginning, that if you absolutely positively want to have a meeting and you want it to be in depth and talk about issues for more than 15 minutes, and it doesn't have anything to do with anything that is specifically in the legislature right then, good time to have that meetings in the summer when everybody's kind of down and you're in the district all the time. You don't go to Salem in the office in the interim, so you're in the district all the time. Then that's the time to have those meetings. If you've got legislation that you're worried about and you want to talk about, by all means, please schedule an appointment, whatever you need to do there. If it doesn't have to do with things that are specifically the issue the Oregon legislature is addressing, it might be good to think about doing it another time so that we can have an actual substantial conversation with you that's longer, and it's not going to get bumped last minute like it might here as we're going into these longer sessions. So, good thing to remind everybody. Good thing to remind everybody on. Okay, everyone. Senator, thank you very much. Another fun,
thank you very much,
packed week coming this week. So we'll let you go and get on your way to the Capitol. So
yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone, and we will see you next week.